Okay, this is the critical lap. This is the critical lap. Confirm.
Leave me alone. I know what to do.
Welcome to the Critical Lap podcast. It's another great race week. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing all right. It's Easter. A lot going on this weekend. I don't think they celebrate Easter in the Middle East, though. At least not certain parts of the Middle East.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, gets celebrated in various places.
Selfishly, I kind of wish that this weekend I could have been in the Middle East, just to kind of avoid the conflict.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Like there was some vague family conflict going on here. Like, oh, there's a race on Easter, and I was like, I don't think the whole world thinks of it as Easter, but yeah,
it's right. It's right at lunchtime, guys. I don't know if I'm feeling too good today, actually.
Yeah. Well, that was the other part. I was
hungry.
like, don't worry, it's in the Middle East. It'll probably be like a 7 a.m. my time. No, noon. Noon kickoff, just in time for lunch.
Hey, have you guys ever heard of track evolution? No. It's not nothing to do with the eggs or anything. No. I want to talk about something else.
Well, so for those fans out there that are listening, thank you once again for joining us. You can hear the dedication, the commitment in our voice as Daniel and I join you today, having spent quality time with our families and even more quality time with the last race in Jeddah. So, yeah. Welcome back to the Critical Lap podcast. If you're coming back, thank you for joining us again. If you're new to the Critical Lap podcast, make sure you take a moment to like and subscribe. Keep track of all the content that we put out. We're glad to have you joining us today. Send this along to your friends, maybe those who are not yet fans but need to be. Let's be honest, this is their gateway. This is their gateway to it if they didn't watch Drive to Survive. Welcome back. We're excited. My name is Ruben. I am one of your hosts. I am an unashamed F1 bandwagoneer. Excited to be here. Glad to be part of the party. And Daniel, joined here by Daniel, my fellow host on the other side.
Thanks for coming back to us, guys. Thanks for anybody who's listening to us for the first time. Please do like and subscribe, as Ruben says. And I'm the old guy here. I've been around the track a few times. Yeah, as you can see.
If you're only listening, you can't see that he's ancient. Daniel, what are you, like 90?
90's the birthday that I keep celebrating year over year.
Yeah,
because I don't want to admit that I'm any older than that.
It's like Benjamin Button. No, not that old. Although looking a little bit worse for the wear today. A little Lando Norris. Take a beer bottle to the nose.
I've lived vicariously, I guess, through Lando Norris, and it's been manifested. My face is not doing too good, guys.
Got a little bad boy look, a little scrappiness to you.
Yeah, got a little scruff in the beard. Haven't taken a brush to it in a day or two, and Also, looks like I just had like a face-on collision with something.
Yeah. No, I mean it's Lando Norris brushed his off as just somebody bumped his elbow during a nice quiet evening out. Did you wear that Red Bull hat into a McLaren bar?
That's what it was. Yeah,
that'll get you in trouble.
I went down to the Poppy in Parliament, the British pub here in town, and just it was the wrong crowd.
Poppy,
you live and you learn.
Nice. Well, we've got a great race to review today. Today we'll be going through the results from the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix at Jeddah Corniche. We both
almost beat you to it.
We both raced for that one. We'll be going through the results of Jeddah. We'll be covering a little bit of news and updates. Maybe find some good quick reactions out of this one. There was a lot to be had here. And maybe giving an appropriate nickname for what turned out to be a great track and a great race.
Oh, yeah.
So, man, let's jump right into this. And hey, spoilers alert, you shouldn't be listening to this if you haven't watched the race. We're always going to advocate that you go watch the race first. So you've got 3 seconds to tune out and go tune into the race.
And 1 Mississippi. 2
Mississippi.
3 Mississippi.
Piastri with a dominant win. Calm, cool, just collected, and took that one challenge from Verstappen that he had to offer, and then just headed off into the sunset. My man Piastri, the Iceman strikes again.
The Iceman strikes again.
He looked a little tired after this one, not going to lie. Now, a solid race weekend. The qualifying was definitely worth watching. Qualifying race, George Russell, set the fastest lap record for Jeddah. And then Piastri set the lap record for Jeddah and took provisional pole. And Verstappen stole it at the very end with 1/100th, I think, of a second gap.
1/100th. Yeah. So at first, guys, qualifying was electric this weekend.
It's fantastic.
You definitely should tune in for that. If you haven't seen the race yet and you want to watch the evolution of the grid or whatever, qualifying was excellent. There's a few heartbreaks in Q1 and Q2, but Q3 was super exciting. At one point, P1 and P2 were separated by 1/1000th of a second. That was like the second to last hot lap from everybody.
Verstappen took it with like 1/1000th, I think.
Yeah. So Piastri was it Norris? No, Norris didn't set a time in Q3.
Nope, Norris crashed out in Q3 very early.
Because he crashed out, he probably looks like me this weekend.
A little bit. But not because of the crash out, because he went to another party, I think.
That's right. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, his helmet doesn't slide that far down when he crashes, like your Pee Wee football helmet that didn't fit too good. Bam, right on the nose.
A little tight, a little snug.
No, 1/1000th of a second. It's been a minute since we've seen those kind of numbers, especially at the top. So yeah, a McLaren and a Red Bull. Basically, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever watched, and a friend of the pod pointed this out to me the other day. When you watch the Olympics and you see the hands underwater going to the wall to touch, in those swimming matches, when it's like undetectable by the human eye, it's like 40,000ths of a second, like bam, 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 like the hands just like kind of touch at the same time. It's almost half of a 100th, right?
Yeah.
So for them to be 1/1000th of a second, I mean, that's just a rounding error for me.
Yeah.
Like at the third decimal place.
What's great is if you go out to YouTube at some point, Google Ghost Lap or Verstappen versus Piastri Ghost Lap, where they will overlay the cars. And you can see them. First of all, it's fascinating watching slightly different lines through different turns and being able to see how they take a different approach, but also how close they are the entire time. Just almost the exact same car.
Yeah.
Really great qualifying. A little sad moment for Norris crashing out, but Piastri lost P1 and started P2 in the race today. And then really his only big challenge was right off the bat going down to turn 1. He got a great start, got in front of Verstappen at the apex. And then there was a big moment there that's still being hotly debated with Verstappen doing Verstappen things and going a little bit late on the brakes, very late on the brakes, not making the apex of turn 2 and going off all 4 wheels off track, coming back on track and not giving the position back. So aside from that, and it honestly set Piastri back a little bit as he was kind of caught in dirty air for the first 10 laps or whatever it was.
So quick reaction here, Rube. What do you think about that? We haven't really gone through the race off the air yet. So what do you think? Whose side are you on here?
For Verstappen and Piastri on that first turn?
Verstappen, Piastri, turn 1. Pre-safety car, obviously.
So my quick reaction on that is I think everybody knew what they were doing. I think Verstappen knew that they would be lenient on the first turn. He even kind of called something like that out on the radio, that there had been a discussion, and I think it was David Coulthard who mentioned on the radio that historically stewards have been lenient on the first turn or on the first lap, where all the cars are bunched up together.
Yeah, tires are cold.
Yeah.
It's a short, like this track in particular is a short trip down. I think it's like 350 meters down to turn 1.
Yeah.
It's not a sweeping turn. It's a pretty,
that's
sticky,
right. And
tight turn.
Honestly, as somebody with so little experience as Verstappen, basically a rookie, you would expect when he goes into turn 1, his tires might be cold. He might go. No, I think Verstappen knew exactly what he was doing. He knew they would be lenient. This is classic Verstappen.
Verstappen.
Down to the turn late. No attempt to make the apex, knowing that if he can get the nose of his car in front of Piastri's, that's his best chance to argue, I was ahead at the turn, he didn't leave me room. Go off track and then get exactly what he wanted, clean air for a dozen laps or whatever it was that he got.
Right.
I think he got exactly what he wanted. And right at the end, we're already just jumping straight into it. We covered Piastri. Piastri was rock solid. Verstappen was rock solid. He had a great weekend, great qualifying, but I think he knew the deal. And at the end, they said he got a 5-second penalty for that maneuver. because he didn't give the place back. I don't think he cared. It allowed him to drive in clean air, put some distance between him and the third, fourth, fifth place. I think it was Russell at the time.
Oh, yeah.
By the time it mattered again, he was in second place with a 2.5 second gap to Piastri. And what annoyed me about it was right at the end, Christian Horner came on the radio and said, "Great job, Max, great drive. That turn one, obviously we all have opinions about," I think he said 2.5 seconds behind Piastri with a 5-second penalty. The implication being you would have won by 2.5 seconds if you hadn't had a 5-second penalty, which is absolute nonsense.
Total nonsense. Nonsense.
And then he says, and we all have our opinions about that. And to be honest, that was the part that irritated me the most. I think Verstappen knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think he minded getting the penalty. I mean, he does because he's frustrated about it. But the reality is this is not the first time he's pulled a move like this. And it worked out really, really well for him. He ended up with a solid second place.
Man, that's an extremely well-rounded explanation for a relatively complicated situation. I think, Ruben, you need to graduate yourself from bandwagoneer to like something...
Yeah,
something better. I mean,
absolutely not. I'm a bandwagoner.
No, listen, I agree with you 100%. I think Max was just like, what are they going to give me, a 5-second penalty? Oh, okay.
Right.
And I mean, the only thing that really hurt him, and I think the thing that may have kept him from actually making it work for him and taking P1 at the end of the race, was the safety car that happened basically immediately at the hands of none other than his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. But truly, I mean, this wasn't, just to argue the Piastri side here, this wasn't a P2 start that just like barely had a chance, keeping it on the inside line, having the room. I mean, the reason Max wasn't on the racing line and the reason Max wasn't, in front of or couldn't cut Piastri off to take the right line through that turn is because Piastri was fully alongside. And at one point, I would argue, depending on the camera angle or whatever, ahead by a few inches of Verstappen. And at that point, Verstappen, early enough too, in my mind, Verstappen, to avoid a penalty, should have fallen in behind or, taken a slower line through there, a wider, slower, but yet, not off track line. And I don't even think, I mean, they may have played the radio a little bit later. Oscar didn't make a big deal out of it. I think it was just too obvious. He didn't start chirping. He was just like, "Hey guys, by the way." And I'm pretty sure, like, instead of the team being like, "Oh yeah, we're already on it, we're already talking," they were like, "Yeah,
right." That's an obvious one.
Yeah. So to your point, though, we know that the Red Bull car isn't the best in race pace or maintaining, like you said, you made the clean air point here. So I do think that Max was like, "I'll take 10 seconds if I have to, just to have a good clean air start." And as you saw, they were watching for traffic. They were watching where the one pit stop of the race was going to put him back into the lineup or traffic. Mm-hmm. And they played it just right. Then they were just too far behind. They were just not quick enough to get through the pit lane. I think the stop was probably a second slow from their typical good stop. But he wouldn't have had that chance without that clean air. 100%. That's the main point here, guys.
Yeah.
The clean air made up for that 5-second penalty by and large. And had it been a McLaren, had the positions been swapped and a McLaren gone off and gotten the 5-second penalty, I think the gap would have been bigger in clean air and they would have pitted and come right back out and kept P1. For
sure. Yeah. It honestly worked out really well. And what's annoying me more, and listen, I know this is all just the gamesmanship of the teams and the way that they play. And Christian Horner chirping about it because that's kind of what he does. And that's what you should do, I guess, if you're running these teams. That's the only part that really annoys me. Right? If you're Max, this is another brilliant move. Down the inside, cut the corner, take your penalty, and disappear off up the road. Safety cars kind of change things a little bit, but yeah, I think honestly, had he not made that pass right off the bat, Piastri would have started disappearing up the road in clean air. He would have been under threat from Russell or Leclerc or anybody else back there and fighting it out. He would have been lucky to be on the podium at all. So it's a win-win. I think ironically, his teammate got taken out in the exact same move. His teammate effectively played the role of Piastri on the inside, taking that left-hand turn, Lawson coming over and clipping. Was Lawson, right? Yeah, Lawson. Gasly. Gasly clipping the inside because he tried to make the apex as like Verstappen just went straight ahead. Gasly tried to make the apex, clipped them, and they both got spun around, which is what happens, and it's the exact reason why that fighting for that turn was never going to win or was never going to work, and Verstappen would have known that. I will say, listen, I made a note during qualifying. I hope Verstappen never gets the best car on the track ever again because he's so good in whatever car he has. 2023 was one of the least exciting. Like the announcers kept trying to tell us in 2023, this is seeing all these records. And I know for some of you fans, it's annoying to watch the same person win over and over again, but it's amazing to even just be a witness to this, glorious sight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. Like we're
in
all
the presence
bored.
of greatness. Yeah. Like,
right. As Verstappen.
Tell me about the last 10 years, please.
Right. So I mean, Verstappen in that car in 2023 was the least interesting thing I've ever seen from Verstappen. Every other season has been a lot more fun, and this one is a blast. He is the video game set to advanced, and he's the bot, right?
Yeah,
you can beat him, but you've got to be all out, right?
Yeah.
No mistakes, and that's just exciting. Every week in and week out, everyone else can fall apart, and Max Verstappen is going to make you have work for first place, which is always fun,
right?
Verstappen did a great job. Too aggressive. I will say I kind of wish he would stop some of that. I've been only impressed by Verstappen this season. Everything he's done has been impressive. In a car that's not performing quite as high, obviously with teammates that can't compete at the same level, and he's still up there in the top 3 for the championship run. Impressive stuff. It takes a little bit away when I see some of these moves that seem a little unfair, a little bit more about exploiting rules or exploiting gaps in the rules versus just driving well. And I don't blame him for it. I don't know what your take is on that, Daniel. I don't blame him for doing it. I just don't enjoy it. It's tough as a fan to root for somebody.
If you're not, the old saying is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And I mean, that's kind of an extreme way of saying, like, if you're not taking advantage of every single angle, then you're not giving it everything. And I wouldn't say Max is cheating. I'm not going that far.
No.
But if the rules are if the rules are even slightly vague or sort of up to interpretation, same thing as like the car dimensions and the mini DRS and all these things. Right. If your team is not so refined and so advanced and so, thorough in every aspect as to like not having a strategy around what do you do in that moment, and what is best for advancement and points earning and winning, then you're not trying. I mean, in this sport, in the pinnacle of motorsport, if you're not going that extra millimeter every single time,
right,
then,
you're not trying.
Yeah. And I mean, you see Helmut Marko talk about like mental preparedness, and there's, he's a kind of aggressive in general. I think that's just the mentality you have to have across the board, driver, team management, engineer, pit crew, whatever, to make sure that if you don't have the best car, you're still giving yourself the best chance at potentially winning. Because you can't always have the best car. You can't always have the best weather. You can't always have the best luck.
Sure.
So everything else has to be on point.
Yeah, and I get that. And I think both things can be true here in the sense that as a fan, what I want to see is the Lando Norris trying to pass on the grass out the pit lane. Back in, wasn't Suzuka? Was it Bahrain?
It was Bahrain.
Just like last week?
Yeah.
Boy, time flies. Trying to pass on the grass immediately. I mean, I think he came on the radio and was like, he pushed me off. And then as soon as it got
It might be running together. It might be running together here.
Yeah. So it got pushed off onto the grass, and he makes some comment, but he effectively came back on and said, yeah, I was never going to make that. The wall was coming up fast. As a fan, I'd love to see that from Verstappen, right? You push hard, you go down the inside, you don't even try to make the apex, you get a 5-second penalty. And when they ask you afterward, you say, well, it was tough. I had to give it a shot, right?
It was Suzuka, by the way. Sorry.
Was it Suzuka?
It was Suzuka. Yeah.
Okay. I just felt like it was a longer ago. I was more disappointed that Verstappen just walked off on his post-race interview. They asked him about the turn. He's like, I was just going to keep this short. Thanks for the fans for being out here. And then just kind of did a mic drop and walked away. Don't do that. Like, just admit, like, I threw one down the inside or outside, I guess.
I mean, it's happened to him before, right? Now, the result was really, really bad, right? I'm thinking Silverstone 2021, right?
Is that one where Hamilton sent him into the wall at 100?
Yeah, at like literally breakneck speed, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows what he's thinking in those moments? I don't think that there's that high of risk or that high of stakes in that turn and at Jeddah. But Max should know what it's like to be, creeped in on when it's a little bit on the margin, a little bit unlikely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he got voted driver of the day, I think, despite all that. I kind of thought I thought it was really nice of Norris to crash out in Q3. So it gave us a lot of action to watch all race while he passed everybody.
Yeah.
I did wonder so Norris crashes out in Q3, starts P10. I think P10, back of the
P10.
Q3
no time in Q3, so he went to the back of Q3. Yeah.
And then had a really good race. I mean, overall, really strong. I questioned when he pitted at lap 35. He went really long on those hards, waiting for another safety car. He got a little bit unlucky, right? If that safety car had come 20 laps later.
Right. No, it would have been perfect. It would have been perfect. And guys, honestly, he was the stronger of the McLarens this week. He was topping the times in practice the whole time. Let me pull up the qualifying results here, because in Q he was slightly behind Max in Q1. He was
flying right up until he hit a wall.
He was slightly better than Max in Q2. In fact, I think the Q2 time that he had, the fastest Q2 time that he had, was faster than that time that
Piastri
and Max put up that was 1,000th of a second apart.
Oh, before they went for their final run.
Yeah.
And set all the records.
Not necessarily faster than what took pole.
Right.
But I mean,
a
tenth and a half slower than Piastri's. His Lando's fastest Q2 number was a 10th and a half slower than Piastri's P2 Q3 qualification. So he was making that momentum. He was making it happen. He was making that car work. This track was working for him. This may have been a completely different race. We may have completely different driver we would have different constructors points, not standings necessarily, but we would have different driver standings today. Because as you know, another spoiler alert, Lando's no longer in the lead for driver championship.
No, Piastri's taking the lead. In fact, I suspect there's a fair number of Piastri fans out there who would take issue with your statement that Lando Norris was the strongest of the McLaren drivers. I know what you mean. Like he had a great weekend and was doing well, but he crashed. You wiped yourself out. You took yourself out of the running. Right. You could say the same thing about Piastri, that he's a stronger one. You say, well, he crashed in Australia.
Right.
But if he hadn't, he would have already been in the lead. Piastri, I don't know that he's necessarily ever going to blow your mind with his performance. But again, he's just a quieter Verstappen in some ways. He's the computer set on advanced, and you can beat him, but
he might blow your mind with his performance, but he's probably not going to say anything about it. Yeah. He might say that he deserves it, but other than that, he's not going to brag.
I do love that he has the most confident, probably deserved after last week. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
He definitely wants to win. Norris, I have to say, it's another week with him sort of saying missed opportunity, or I had a missed opportunity. I don't buy into the whole thing that it's mental or that he's got. I think it's just a challenging sport, and he's had some bad luck, but you can't help but look at it and say, hey, in this type of a field, you can't have slip-ups like that. You can't.
Well, here's an argument for mentally weak against mentally weak Lando Norris. If Lando Norris was mentally weak, he wouldn't have been taking the chance that he took to take the line that he took over that curb that made him lose control. I mean, that doing what he did was basically just kind of like rolling the dice, getting too many wheels off the ground at one time so that there was a kind of a snap or a reaction in the car when he got back into his traction. So to me, inching ever so slightly more to the right each lap to try to cut a straight line through that set of turns was mentally strong.
Right.
And kind of a risk-taking mentality that is what gets you to the top. I mean, best car or not, best driver or not, if you're not pushing like that, then you're not going to do it. So there you have it, Dr. Marco. I'm going to stand in opposition here.
There you go, Dr. Marco. Hey, some news, by the way. Did you see that Helmut Marko has suggested that Sebastian Vettel might be the next good helmet Marco to replace him at Red Bull.
You mean like a German guy thinks that another German guy should come into the team and do what he does?
Yeah.
No way.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah,
No,
shocking
listen.
that he recommended the other German guy that had the most success aside from Max Verstappen at Red Bull.
Right. No, listen, Dr. Marco is well within his rights to say whatever he wants to say. The guy's legit. Fine. And I like Sebastian Vettel too. Like, I think he's a kind of a nice, cool, successful, ice in his veins kind of guy too.
Sure.
I agree. I think it would be cool to see him continue to participate in the sport.
Yeah.
Be in that kind of role. I think he'd be a little bit nicer about it than Dr. Marco is, but
Well, first of all, isn't Seb too busy raising bees and
growing his hair out?
last time I saw him, I thought, boy, he found retirement and just took a hard turn.
He leaned right into it.
I think he's going to have to be a lot older. I think right now, Seb stepping into that role, he's too confrontational in a funny, nice way, but he's too confrontational and he doesn't have the, I don't know what to call it, the age and the gravitas to step into that. I think he and Christian Horner would just knock heads immediately.
Yeah, he's not long enough in the tooth, if you will.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with his teeth, but he needs a few more years. Norris pretty good. Williams,
Double points finish.
Williams with the double point finish. Really exciting to see. Really fun moment from lap 40 on. I mean, the last 10, 12 laps of the race was Williams kind of hunting in a pack and getting up to 8th and 9th place and then holding off Hadjar for 10 laps.
Yeah. I mean, Hadjar in the points. Great for him. But Carlos Sainz qualified P6, guys. P6. He made it into Q3 and he was basically the top of the second half of Q3.
Yeah.
That is competitive. Now, it's all about how you run the race, not your best lap and best form. But honestly, man, I'm excited for the momentum, and it's probably a little bit a slower burn than I originally thought it would be. But I'm excited for the momentum that Williams has.
Yeah,
excited both
for Sainz and for Albon.
Yeah.
Well, because Sainz qualifies 6th, which is really impressive, is fairly. I think he was fairly reasonable about his chances. He knew that he was going to be fighting and trying to hold on to 8th. That was his goal, was 8th, and he got it.
Mm-hmm.
Albon finished or qualified and started 11th, and ended up going up 2 places to 9th.
Yeah.
Really, the team stacked up pretty neatly this race in terms of best performance on down.
Yeah.
Complete with Ferrari and Mercedes being kind of mixed up with who's the best here this week. Felt a little bit more in favor of Charles Leclerc, if not Ferrari. But pretty well mixed up with Williams making an argument for that best of the rest.
Yeah. And Sainz out-qualified Lewis Hamilton Q1, Q2, and Q3. This wasn't a lucky streak in Q3.
I saw that. Yeah.
He consistently got a better lap in the Williams than the guy who, the 7-time world champion that replaced him in the car that he used to drive.
I saw that. Yeah, that was a moment. Welcome back, Carlos Sainz.
Welcome back, Carlos. Did you get your other appendix removed and not tell us about it?
I don't think you got to keep the other one.
No,
you don't need either one.
You only have one appendix.
Oh, okay. See, when you get to vestigial organs, I'm not up on my vestigial organs.
Who needs them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Or who needs the one? Well, welcome back, Carlos Sainz. Welcome back to Charles Leclerc with a strong P3.
Yeah. Made it on the podium. Good job, buddy.
On the podium. Yeah. Seems somewhat surprised to be there, and somewhat surprised to be handed a microphone for his interview after Verstappen gave like a 10-second interview.
Huh.
They panned over to him, and he was sitting on his little water bottle stand, just drinking water, and looked shocked and jumped up to look for a microphone.
Yeah,
they politely panned around the racetrack for us while they waited. Great performance by Leclerc. It was a kind of a quiet weekend for him, but he qualified really well, and then the announcers called it out. He was having a great race. His pace was excellent. Kind of felt like maybe a higher qualifying or slightly different luck of the draw on that safety car, and it would have been an even better outcome for Leclerc. So exciting to see Leclerc at least back up there, if not both Ferraris. Definitely makes the competition a little better at the constructor level.
Well, since speaking of constructor level competition, and since we didn't have George Russell on the podium this weekend, quick reaction for you. Predict an outcome for me here. Does Mercedes, Ferrari, or Max's Red Bull, which one comes out ahead this year? Because I mean, you've got Mercedes in a nice strong position, but their lead isn't huge, right?
Right.
Max is still ahead of Ferrari by himself, right? But that is a tight lead. So if the Ferraris consistently perform, and if there's any kind of fall off in performance from Mercedes, I don't think Max can single-handedly fight both of them off. So where do you think we land? Do you think Ferrari keeps the momentum going? Do you think Mercedes stays strong? Does Max keep getting lucky? I am really surprised that Max is qualifying the way he is, and keep hanging on to the position in the race.
Yeah, I was surprised, but I don't have any surprise left to give for Red Bull at this point. I think they've got a lot of smoke and mirrors going on.
Well,
here's my hot take on that.
There.
I think the Red Bull's a really good car, and I think they're screwing with everybody, and they just keep saying, well, we're not there with the competitors. McLaren's so far up the field, and they're just not. They're just not so far up the field. Yuki Tsunoda got in that car and is performing quite well. And aside from being crashed out today, would probably have been in the top 5, 6. He would have had a good race. So I think it's McLaren. I think Mercedes is going to lock in that second spot. I think they're not going to have any issue. Antonelli is too good for a rookie. George Russell has a decent argument to be made for a championship level drive. I don't think that Max and Red Bull are going to be able to hold off Ferrari at their current performance. But I also think Yuki Tsunoda's coming along fast. So my prediction would be Constructors' Championship end of the year will be McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, which assumes Yuki Tsunoda participates, and then Ferrari. And then at this point, Williams.
Right. That's honestly, that is my prediction today, exactly in that order.
Yeah. Okay. I just think Yuki Tsunoda is coming along pretty well, and I just Red Bull. If you're listening, which I don't think you are, but if you are, thank you for being a listener. Please like and subscribe. Red Bull, if you're listening, you can quit telling everybody your car is not any good, or that you're struggling, or that you got a problem. It's fine. You're doing fine. You have a really good car.
Yeah.
You have a car that snaps a little bit, and you got to learn how to drive it. But when you learn how to drive it, you're contending for first in the race.
Yeah. One more weekend like this one, like Suzuka, and we're going to stop believing anything you say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're just at this point now. And here's the thing: the little light bulb moment for me this weekend was, it's Max Verstappen. He's just so good. I can't believe he got another pole position in that Red Bull. And then I looked, and Yuki Tsunoda qualified 8th. Like, well, 8th. I mean, that's 7 positions away from Max. That's a pretty big gap. Yeah, but look at the other cars. It's all the McLarens, all the Mercedes, all the Ferraris.
Yeah, yeah.
When you have 4 good teams, qualifying 8th isn't that bad.
Yeah, it's still Q3, which is celebrated for most drivers.
Yeah.
And it's still the third race?
Right.
For Yuki Tsunoda? The third race and the hardest car to drive.
Right.
So, and he's coming right.
Supposedly.
Yeah. The alleged hardest car to drive.
Meanwhile, Nico Hulkenberg is like, excuse me. Like, sorry, is your car a little snappy?
Yeah. No, he's coming along, and if the momentum continues, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
And I'm sorry, I did that was a mistaken statement by me. It was not both McLarens, both Mercedes, both Ferraris. It was Carlos Sainz.
Well, there you go. There you go.
My bad. I just, sorry, I don't believe it anymore. I think that Red Bull car, once you figure out how to drive it, which is the case with all these cars, Carlos Sainz is great proof of that. Once you figure out how to drive that Red Bull, I think it's the second fastest, maybe third fastest at worst. So, yeah. Anyway, welcome back, Carlos Sainz. Great to see him using his favorite tow package there for his teammate and pulling out an 8th and 9th. Decent rookie on rookie passing in lap 30, 31. Had Antonelli and Hadjar with a nice battle. Behrman and Doohan in lap 31. Doohan had an average week, kind of a downer for his teammate.
I was about to say, speaking of Behrman and Doohan, my predictions for rookie standouts this weekend just did not pan out. Nothing to show for it.
I know. And I'm glad that I called out the best rookie was Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
That's what I said, right? I think I said Hadjar. I said Hadjar.
Totally.
But Hadjar had a great weekend as well. Both rookies doing well. I was really disappointed to see Gasly get taken out. Sad for Yuki Tsunoda because I want Yuki to succeed as well. But Gasly's just making that Alpine run well right now. And I was bummed to see him get dropped out.
So here's a little snippet about Hadjar. He is 1 point behind. He's in 14th in the drivers right now. He's 1 point behind 3 drivers who are all tied with 6 points. Hadjar has 5. So if Hadjar can creep up on essentially the 3 guys in front of him with 6 points, which I think he consistently is going to be performing.
I think so. Yeah,
a little bit better than Pierre Gasly, Nico Hülkenberg, and maybe Oliver Behrman. Maybe not Oliver Behrman with that car.
Right.
But he could easily be in the top 10.
Yeah.
The 10th place is occupied by Lance Stroll, which
that's going to be a tough one to pass.
Tough one to hang on to, honestly, Lance. Good for you this far into the season in 10th.
Doing good there, Lance. Hang in there, buddy.
But I mean, honestly, the only competition he's got is Haas. Esteban Ocon with 14 points.
Yeah.
Ollie Behrman with 1 more point than he has. Honestly, Hadjar keeps the momentum going. He's 10th or 9th in the drivers.
Right.
Halfway through the season.
And the Racing Bulls right now are behind Aston Martin as a team because of Lance Stroll. So again, credit where it's due. Lance Stroll is keeping Aston Martin in 7th place right now. But I think it's only a matter of time before those Racing Bulls take 7th place and start reeling in Haas. But I say that Haas has given, this is the only race really where Haas has given us any indication that they were struggling a little bit. Anyway, great race. I'm trying to think. There was a big pucker moment. Lap 25, Bortoleto almost killed Alonso. I don't know if you saw that, but he did not see Alonso coming up fast and swerved over to that right-hand side, I think on turn 1. And I don't know how he didn't smash Alonso into the wall, but Alonso called that out. He literally went on the radio and was like, "Whoa, wow, big moment, big moment." He almost got me. Check the car. Which I thought was such a great like you could see him like checking his body parts to make sure everything was there.
Big moment.
Look at the floor. Look at the wall. Check are the wheels on? That was about it. Anyway, that's any other big reactions, big takeaways from this one?
No, I think we could probably jump into some names for this track. I mean, I don't know where we got in the preview, but one thing stands out to me after watching all the footage, since the preview that we put out, qualifying the race, especially these nighttime events.
Right.
In turn 13, which is the first, 180, not quite a hairpin because it's not that tight. There's a big 3-letter word that sits in there in like the infield. Okay. And it's just JED, Jed.
Jed.
And I can't help but think of the 2016 presidential nomination campaign by Jeb Bush, which was the slogan was just Jeb !
Jeb !
Just Jeb.
And so are you saying you want a nickname? Jeddah Corniche.
I mean,
circuit. Jed.
Yeah. Jeddah Corniche. AKA Jed.
I kind of like that.
That's what I'm in favor of.
For those of you who might have just joined us on this episode, this is the point of the episode where Daniel and I like to nickname the tracks because we don't think it's fair that only Monza gets Temple of Speed.
Right.
Just Jed.
You've heard of silly season. Well, this is the silly part of our episode where we just start throwing things at the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, like Bortoleto throwing Alonso at the wall.
Yeah.
I think the only other one we came up with was that it looks like a bent bobby pin, like a little hairpin, that you try to use to pick a lock when you're a kid, and fail miserably. No, I like.
So maybe it's just Bobby.
We got to stick with Jed. Bobby might be. We already wasted our Barbaran jokes from Bahrain.
And for anybody who doesn't remember what happened in the Republican nominee campaigns from 9 years ago,
had big international appeal.
Maybe Chris P can throw a graphic in there for us, or some sort of cut.
Yeah, just a reminder so that some people can celebrate. and some
Chris
can't.
is looking at us like, guys, I don't do miracles. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Like hard pass on that. I was trying to think if there was a good nickname for this one, given that it is the second fastest track and it is easily the fastest street.
It is
circuit.
the fastest street circuit, right?
Fastest
even
street
though
circuit.
even though it is tight and walled up, it has more high speed turns and no pins. It has a couple of corniches. I'm sorry, chicanes, like Monza. Which Corniche, by the way, is a winding coastal road that's cut into a cliff. So, like, what you think?
Is
of,
it
like,
really?
I mean, according to the Google, yeah.
Look at you with your international road name knowledge.
Yeah. So, the Corniche bobby pin.
Okay.
Jed. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this, honestly.
Okay. I like that. Well, we probably, I would love a speed based one, like Temple of Speed based. Speed, but I couldn't think of a good one. But now you've gotten me wanting one to do with Corniche. Listen, we're going to learn how to pronounce it right by next year at least. But
Corniche?
They may have a new track. Yeah, they may have a new track by
They may
next
have a
week.
new track. They may have a new track.
Okay, I'm happy to just go with Jed. I like
Jed.
just Jed.
All
Just
right.
Jed, exclamation
Jed.
point. I will say, and I don't know for you, those of you who are new fans like me, trying to pass yourself off as maybe a longtime fan, it's okay. Just own it. We're the bandwagoneers. We're here. We like it. Let me express here once and for all some frustration as a newcomer, where we seem to call these tracks different things depending on whenever we want to call them something different. Like somebody will just say, well, the race is in Jeddah. And you're like, I thought it was in Saudi Arabia. Like, it's in Jeddah as well. It's called the Jeddah Corniche Circuit at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. It's a lot of names. It's a lot of names, guys. It's even worse when you get to like Silverstone and they start having corners that have special names.
Right.
And they just expect that you're going to know those. Like, I'm trying here, but you're not giving me a lot. All right. I like it. Let's go with Jed. We're going with Jed, unless the listeners speak up. Speak now or forever hold your peace. If you've got a great name for the fastest street circuit on the calendar.
If you've got a mediocre name, it's probably better than anything we've come up with so far. Please let us know.
Listen, it's going to have to be pretty good to beat Jed or the bobby pin. But if you've got one, put it in the comments, send it along, and we'll give it some consideration. You've got good odds of helping the Critical Lap name the Jeddah Corniche Saudi Arabia Grand Prix circuit. Quick reactions, Daniel.
What's up?
I'm asking you. I've stated my opinion. Is that Red Bull actually slow?
Ooh, Christian Horner, the terrier, right? What's the wolf and the terrier, right? That was the analogy we gave Toto and Christian.
Well, Toto's actually called Wolf, but yeah.
Well, and he's a little longer legged.
He's longer legged. That's right. He's got more of a wolf look. Okay, the terrier. What did the terrier say?
I mean, the terrier is not known for being as direct as maybe some of his peers on his team, like Dr. Helmut Marko. So I do agree with you. What you're calling out is kind of like a tendency to be a little bit underhanded, a little bit what's the word? Conspicuous, right? Inconspicuous,
conspiratorial.
Sure. I do think that, like, when you're on your back foot and you've enjoyed several years of having dominant car, dominant driver, and then somehow something goes wrong. The wrong person leaves the team, and you don't have it all together. There's a small leak in the boat. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There's a small leak in the boat. What do? You reach into your toolbox and you just grab whatever you got, right? Like you should be using all of your tools, right? But if you're doing really well, like some of those tools, maybe they're not getting as much use. I think one of these tools that we're seeing come out in ways to win a season, win races, is the good old sandbagging. Just do a little sandbagging, and maybe you might catch somebody off guard enough to make them make decisions in a different way. I mean, I'm sure in his mind he's thinking like, okay, what is Zach Brown thinking? How do I get into his head? How do I get him to like bleed a few 2025 resources into 2026? Because we have an advantage for new regs. We have all these things. And there's definitely some sandbagging going on across the board for 2026. So how do I get Toto, Zach Brown, Andrea Stella also at McLaren, Vasseur. What's his first name? Apologies. Fred
Vasseur.
Fred Vasseur. How do I get these guys to kind of like, in any difference of like this or that, go with
Settle
that
in a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, go with that, and that meaning put those resources to next year. Don't go the extra mile. Don't worry about it that much. That's what it's got to be in my mind. But yeah, I do think that the car is not that bad.
No. It's not as good as they want it to be, but nobody's car is as good as they want it to be.
Well, is it a factor of regression, or is it a factor of everyone else has advanced, given these many years with these regs, that they finally caught up to you? Right? Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think it's just as good of a car as it always was. It's just there's more competition.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like they've talked a lot about how it's not great. And I also wondered a little bit whether Verstappen doesn't like it, so they all have to pretend like it's not great because Verstappen's complaining. So they're like, "Oh, we know we don't have a great car, but
yeah, no, it's the worst car we've had in a while. We're sorry, Max."
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to do it.
I have one more quick reaction for you, but
let's go.
I don't know if you got some for me. You threw a couple at me this whole episode, so
I've been burning through mine. I'm sorry,
yeah.
I'm getting impatient. So please go ahead.
No, here's another quick reaction for you. Verstappen's 5-second penalty, was that the right call? Should it have been 10-second?
So
or should it not have been a penalty at all since it was the first lap?
Breaking it down a little more, I think 5 seconds is the right amount. I think it should have been a penalty, first of all. I think 5 seconds instead of 10 was the right amount because you do kind of have to keep that turn one competition, right? If they're not going for the gaps on turn one because their tires are cool or because they're just not then I'm not tuning into like one of my favorite parts of the race, right? I'm not paying as much attention. Like if they're going to be, ginger and careful around that first turn. So I think it was the right call. I also think that he got unlucky in a sense that the safety car came out before they could make a decision, right? Because he didn't have the chance to let the team go through everything and say, "Okay, buddy, we're pretty sure you're going to get a penalty unless you give up the advantage right now." Because that's everybody's gamble. We've talked about this before.
Right.
Do I wait for a penalty to kind of define or bookend what disadvantage I get, and I get to do it in a controlled environment, which is where I'm already, stopping the car entirely to change tires? Or do I pick apart in the track within enough time for them not to, hand down a penalty so that I give this back and then go right back to competing?
All right, but if they give you some leniency, if they give some leniency on the first lap, because it's chaos and there's a lot of cars in there, that means that the stewards are basically saying, this is a 10-second penalty, but we're going to give you some benefit of the doubt because it's the first lap. But it's Verstappen. So if you're being lenient and bending the rules because of the first lap, do you not also say, and you're a 4-time world champion who's known for doing this, so why would I bend the rules for you knowing that this is one of your favorite moves?
That's a good point. And honestly, I think what you're saying is like if there is some discretion in this,
right,
for the one side of it's lap one, then the discretion should work completely the other way.
Both ways.
And now we're back to the terrier, right? What do these marshals have in the back of their mind of the consequences that they will pay if their decision comes down as penalizing someone for reputation, for previous success, for whatever?
Run. Yeah.
And it's exactly. Now, we both agree that clean air is what got him the, advantage throughout the first several laps.
Right.
To finish within 2.8 or whatever he finished from Piastri, from the second best arguable driver in not as arguable best car. So, again, that's why those tiny little pieces matter. But there also could have been some discretion to say, look, he can't swap positions under the safety car. We're not going to get into that can of worms. So we can't, if we give him a 10-second penalty before the safety car ends, and because they haven't had the chance to do their little, noodling and looking at footage and all that, I think that might have been like 2 strikes in favor of leniency. with only one strike in favor of, no, that's this guy's MO. If we let him keep getting away with it, he's just going to run us over. He's just going to keep doing it. He's going to win on, that kind of thing. So,
it's just a question I think I've got to ask as a relative new fan who looks at this and says, wait, what are the rules? And they say, oh, there's a 10-second penalty. Who was it that gave a 10-second penalty later in the race?
Lawson.
They gave Lawson a 10-second penalty for the same thing. They gave Magnussen a 10-second penalty the previous year for a similar move. As a person watching this and kind of, I don't know, I've only got the rules to go on here.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you get a 10-second penalty? Well, because it's crazy at the beginning. Yeah, it's Max Verstappen. He knows what he's doing. There's no crazy start for Max Verstappen. Anyway, so
I agree.
It's a question to kind of throw out there. All right. Well, that's all I've got.
The worst thing about that, before we call it quits, the worst thing about that is I think it took away from Piastri's excellent start. I mean, for you to be able to get all the way alongside and then some P1, I mean, your grid position is behind that car. Yes, you have the inside line, but he had such a good start that he was alongside Verstappen before it was time to make the call on the apex, if you ask me.
Yeah.
He was at least most of the way there. That was the exciting thing for me in that turn at that start, and that's where I'm going to remember, like, okay, Piastri's kind of got it. He's doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like sometimes we get so tied up in other battles that happen in the race, we forget to go back to the point that Piastri is making a very strong championship run statement right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if things don't change, he'll win it just off consistency and being in the fastest car.
Yep.
But, hey, it's a great race. It's fun to see. Verstappen, it reminds me a little bit of in basketball, right? At the end of the game, when you got a few seconds left and the other team's up and you start fouling people. Is it a good strategy? No, but it's better than just losing.
Yeah.
I think Verstappen knew when he saw Piastri get ahead, a little bit of adrenaline kicks in and you realize I either cut this corner or that might be P2, P3, P4 out the window.
Yeah. All right. Last thing I've got before we call it quits here.
You got one for me? Hit me.
I will give naming rights to any listener, fan, or friend of the pod who can tell me what year the hat that I'm wearing on my head is from. And for those of you who aren't tuned into YouTube, my hat says both Aston Martin and Red Bull Racing on the front.
Can you lean forward a little bit so we can see that, Bill? Thank you very much.
That's what's up. Don't mind the sweat line.
What year is Daniel's hat from?
Yeah.
Because we name the track.
We know Aston Martin and Red Bull are two separate teams today.
Yeah. You get to name the track as long as it's something that we can actually repeat again on the Critical Lap. And that's what we'll do the next time on the Critical Lap if you get those in. Thank you again for joining us. Once again, if you're loving the Critical Lap, if this is what you enjoy, please subscribe, like, add a comment, share with your friends. And thanks again, as always, to our legendary pit wall producer, Crispy.
Thank you, Chris. We love you.
We will see you in 2 weeks for the Miami Grand Prix.
Miami.
It's going to be a good one. So we're looking forward to that. And we'll see you next time on the Critical Lap.
Later.